As a result, won the School Award for Leadership. So, the counselor recommendation gives you something that lets you understand a little bit better what's happening in the extracurriculars. So Ethan, our physicist, environmentalist who doesn't like ceremony. Julie is a French citizen, but attends school in Chicago's suburbs. I think that's really interesting. Do you remember what her subject test was? Spanish. A French citizen attending school in the United States with a really high Spanish subject test. So, a trilingual kid. Like, you don't know that she's fluent in French, but it's probably safe to assume. Her academic interests are biology and Spanish. Her personal essay is in diary form regarding the service project in Costa Rica and how the diversity she encountered was a big change from her homogenous school. Conversational tone is solid, but not especially reflective. It is not an accident that I have 2 survey strip essays in this presentation. I'm teaching you something very not subtly here. There's supplemental essays about how much she loves music. Teachers call her hardworking, and the council describes her as creative and independent with a, quote, solid high school career, quote. So what's the word that comes out here? What's that? Hardworking. Hardworking. I think that's right. Trilingual kid is hardworking. Ying, Singaporean, not Chinese. Ethnic Chinese. You don't know that either. Somebody, if Singaporeans were in the room, they would not like you. She attends a local school in Singapore, and both her parents at the university agrees. Her academic interests are econ and chemistry. One essay mentions how nice it is to grow up in a meritocratic time. That is like the most Singaporean thing that I get right. And how sad it is that her grandmother didn't have that chance. Another essay sadly reflects on moving out of her old, quiet apartment when the government knocked down the block. The essay is more emotional than intellectual. Teachers call her hardworking and diligent, someone, quote, focused on grades more than ideas. Counselor Beck says that she recovered from a disaster when she spread herself too thin. So here are our 6 kids. Ying, a Singaporean who recovered from a disaster. I don't know what that is. Julie, a trilingual, solid, hardworking girl. Ethan, the physicist, environmentalist from San Francisco who's interested in the auto industry and not interested in ceremony. Our Vietnamese poet. Jillian, the reserve pre-vet girl. And Connor, the American in Japan. So, do you have questions at this point? Do you know who you want to vote for? What's interesting is that you all like nodding here. You don't even need the time to think about this. Like, now you just know. Isn't that weird? So who's voting for Connor? No one! Seriously? Oh my god, that is shocking. One person for Connor? Is it a pity vote or do you really mean it? You mean it? Why? Tell me why. And don't just tell me why. Convince everyone else that they're fools for not being on board. So you like him because he actually stands for something. He like has an opinion. And he seems interesting, and that seems like a good fit for Tufts in your mind. Okay, is anyone convinced? One mom's nodding. Yes, you got one! What's your name? Hello. Oh, I met you at HKS. Yes. There's Jillian. Who's voting for Jillian? One, again. Do you want to do the same exercise? Do you want to convince someone that they should join you for Jillian? Jillian went from 9 to 0 and then picked up 1 vote. What do you like about it?
I like the potential about growing confidence. Somewhat shy, centered, emerging.
Emerging. You like the word emerging. You think that she has the potential to be the most successful because the word growth, word centering on growth appear here. Why aren't the rest of you moved by growth, growing confidence, emerging? Why aren't the rest of you jumping on that? Yeah.
I think her personality is a little too reserved. She doesn't really have a really bad background, so she probably some ways.
Well, what's wrong?
Well, every teacher seems to say she's shy and reserved.
Well, what's wrong with being shy? Can you point to anything that's really wrong with her? But you're still not voting for her anyway.
I think there are
Like, yes.
I think maybe one thing that stands out is in her essay, the fact that she focused on recognitions. I would have thought she would just want to turn it into something more positive. Maybe I don't think she's so good. She focused on negative and just not kind of positive force.
So I understand that, but I'm going to push back on that the way I would in committee, which is to say, a girl from an affluent Chicago suburb goes to Indonesia. It's hard to be positive about some of the things you see when you come from that kind of background and land in a place like that. Like coming from her background, I get that. But the point is she's not really missing something so much as you like others more. That makes sense. Who's voting for Lisette? All right. Who's not voting for Lisette? One person. There's a lot of one votes here. One person who's not voting for Lisette, -1. So Lisette is a clear winner. Oh my God. Y'all loved her. Why? Come on. Kids with better scores, better numbers. What is it about her you like? Is it something she's doing? Curiosity. Where do you see curiosity? Reads outside the classroom. What I really like about Lisette is that I don't really know exactly why I like her. I just do. Right? Like, there are things you can point to here, but if I said, point to the one thing in this application that makes her an admit, I don't think there's a magic bullet here. And I ask a lot of times questions about what do you need to get in? What should I be talking about? What should I be doing? And what's interesting about Lisette is that I don't think you can point to the things she does in here that's correct, so much as it's just all consistent and you like it. Who's voting for Ethan? Looks like about half. Maybe more. Ethan has been consistently polling around half of you. Doing quite well. Who's voting for Julie? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 votes for Julie, 6 votes for Julie. And who's voting for Yin? 2. So I would love to hear either the Ying or Julie supporters try to swing some people over from Lisette and from Yin. Who's up to the task? You're all committee members. You got no one to argue. That's the whole point. So awkward.
Well, the reason I think that Ying is still a good choice regardless of the amount of support for Ethan and Lisette is because, well, Ying seems to have somehow recovered from a disaster. The fact that she can still do well intellectually in her grades and in her school report, it shows that she can take a hit. She can go down and then come back up, which I think is a trait that not every student would have. So in that sense, it is quite important.
What do you think the disaster is?
A health incident, probably like a car crash or something similar.
I can take a guess at what the disaster is. And to be honest, I find this really perplexing, this council recommendation, like what's being stated here. Because, like, what on earth was the disaster? Like, her grades are fine. Her test scores were amongst the best in the bunch. And if you look at the spreads herself too thin comment, like, that is also kind of perplexing. Because she's not doing that much. The summer job. Well, so here's kind of what I think. Okay, so the Singaporean government does knock down plots, but they don't knock down buildings that are nice. So her parents do have university degrees, but something in here is hinting at something going really wrong with her home life. And I don't know exactly what it is, but maybe her parents did lose her job, and the reason that she goes out and gets that summer job is because she needs to help support the family when they move out of their nice apartment and into a not nice apartment that then gets knocked down by the government. Which is a kind of emotional thing. And I know that a lot of you are turned off by the focus on grades more than ideas, but she's a local kid in the Singaporean educational system which is focused on grades more than it is on ideas. Like, she's reflecting the culture she lives in, which is not totally her fault. So I don't know for sure what that disaster is, but I can see that probably something is really messed up in her home, and that's what the problem is, and the counselor just doesn't feel comfortable exposing it. Do any of you find this persuasive? Does this move any of you to want to vote for her? If that were true, if she did get that summer job because her parents' financial situation was really desperate, and despite that she still landed a 4.0, would that persuade some of you to vote for her? But you don't really know that that's what happened. Yeah. Those things might have happened before the disaster. So, what's interesting here is there is a way to make a case for Ying that is persuasive and that you will like and that will get you to vote for her. But because we don't have the pieces, it's very difficult to make that case. The council wants to say something, and I want to hear what you would say.
I'm wondering that
But she could have spread herself to then doing things other than schoolwork, at least in a bad way, because her schoolwork still has perfect records. So, just like with Jillian versus Lisette, the word community service failed to grab you because it wasn't specific. There's something here that's failing to grab you because you also don't have the whole story. Do you want to know who I voted for? Because I was in the committee for all 16 candidates, and I can tell you who I voted for. Are you curious? I voted for Connor and Lisette. Do you want to know why? Philosophy and Japanese are both underserved majors and represent the institutional priorities of us. We have, seriously, we have a world-class philosophy program and a world-class Japanese program, and not enough people do both. Just out of curiosity, how many of you in the room right now are thinking you want to study philosophy in college or university? Yay, thank you, awesome. This is a priority. Usually when I ask that question, one person raises their hand, and I'm like, you see, one of you. But now there are 4 of you, so maybe that won't be the case this year. I don't know. But, and you know what? I know he had the weakest grades in the bunch, but everything about this kid points to the kind of student who half his teachers love and the other half his teachers hate. Can you guys see that? Right? The kind of kid who throws intellectual grenades in a classroom conversation and likes to watch things explode. And you can see it in his extracurriculars too, right? Here he is, science club, philosophy, debate, cross-country. These are a little more solitary intellectual pursuits. Things that a slightly less connected kid would do. The kind of boy who would look at his homework and think, this is boring, and then not do it. Not because he's not thinking, not because he's not working hard. He's just working hard on things that happen outside the classroom. And then, his writing is dry, okay, but you know what? Good philosophy is dry. And if any of you attend international schools or have attended international schools specifically in Japan, one of the curious quirks about this is that most of the Americans in these environments do not engage with the local culture. And here you have a boy who's not only engaged with the local culture, it's what he wants to do now. It's what he's writing about. So I'm seeing a philosopher iconoclast who's bucking all the trends and norms in schools, who's making some people a little uncomfortable, but that's probably good if what you're interested in doing is studying debate, and who is really intellectually minded and interested. How many of you would vote for him now? I'm just curious, after I made that case. A couple of you, but not enough. How many of you agree with me and still will not vote for him?